Thank you. Just wanted to thank everyone. It's the end of a long day, and everyone's here. This is one more session after this. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I love always the format of a roundtable. It's a lot more cozy, and I think I love the intent of it. I think in a world where there's strife, there's war, I think here's an effort to just hear diverse, different voices from different parts of the world, um, try to facilitate an exchange of ideas and books. So I thank you to Bookmark for actually bringing us together on one platform. It's an interesting mix of people here. I was going into the profiles of some of our panelists. We've actually, so Emmanuelle is also an archaeologist in the Middle East, very interesting. Isabelle has written a psychological thriller. We have also got Stéphane, who's a singer-songwriter himself. Swetha has come from data analysis. So I love the different energies and strengths that we bring to publishing as a whole. And I think the intent of the roundtable is to also focus a bit more on the business side of Bookmark, which is to facilitate and encourage an exchange of and a sale of rights, talk about books. It's the one thing we love doing in our business. We love talking about books we're excited about. We love talking about books we're about to publish. And we want to take these books to newer geographies, newer readers, newer countries. So I think that is largely the objective of this roundtable. Um, as you can see, there are a number of people here who will be speaking, so I request everyone to adhere to a 5-minute speaking time. Within those 5 minutes, I'd love each of you to introduce your publishing house briefly. Talk about what is it that you look for in a book when you're choosing to publish it. That's unique to your taste and selection process. Follow that with one book that you are excited to present to the audience and to a fellow panelist, which you feel has the ability to travel far. And I mean, travel into different languages, travel into different territories. It could be markets that you never thought the book could, but there is a certain universality in the story that you feel that book has the ability to do. So we're going to go in an alphabetical order. Some of my panelists have a few slides to talk about, which the team here will support with, a visual cue. Yeah, so that's the format. And thank you for, being part of this. Aditi, if we could start with you. Aditi is with Vani Prakashan, one of our, most important and biggest publishing houses in Hindi. And Aditi, we'd love to sort of hear more about you and a book that you'd like to talk to us about.
Thank you. Because the time is very, very tight, so I'll just straight away introduce Vani Prakashan as a 62 years young independent publishing house that represents the legacy lists of Vani Prakashan, the Go List, Bharatiya Gyanpeeth, and Yatra Books. We are looking for books that can travel through time and can give a foundational understanding into the publishing ecosystem, language ecosystem, societal ecosystem of that particular country, that particular society, or maybe books like, for example, Persepolis that we did as a graphic novel a few years ago, and that was the opening of graphic novels in Hindi language. So all kinds of submissions are accepted as far as they are solid on their ground. Most welcome. What I'm going to pitch today is a soon to be released novel by Manisha Kulshresht. She's here in the audience. And
Manisha, if you could just stand and wave to us.
Yes. This is going to be launched on the 3rd of February. It's called Trimaya, Teen Maya, Three Mayas. This is a first of its kind modern take on matrilinear societies amongst the animal kingdom and the tribal world. Connects the Nayars, the elephants, and of course, a tribe in Meghalaya that was bulldozered into Hinduization about 70 years ago. This novel, I think there are very few novels that go into the archaeological history checking, fact checking. This one is also credited by a very prominent social scientist as an excellent piece that presents anthropometry also, which means that it goes so deep in the research that the people who populate the novel, the women who populate the novel, the Khasi, the Nayars, the elephants, even they are measured well so that their skin, flesh, and vocabulary is so real. We hear a lot of northeast of India. We hear a lot of Kerala in this. We hear a lot of language of the elephants. It's for the first time that I learned that elephants were essentially a matrilinear society. And kudos to her. This is her 7th novel. She has been translated into a lot of foreign languages. And she is also been on the jury of the National Film Awards on various categories. A person who I am so proud to publish and edit. And I think after her 6th novel, this is a huge point of departure in her personal authorly history also. And interests from publishing houses that perhaps would look into the research work that this one is a shining example of are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Aditi. Aditi, if you could specify which languages rights are available?
All. It's
All.
not launched yet.
It's not launched yet.
English with me, rest.
Got it. Thank you. Emmanuelle, you're next.
Hello. So, as you told, I'm an historian from the Middle East, so you could imagine that I could publish non-fiction, academic non-fiction, but I choose exactly the opposite, just because I think that you said that I'm archaeologist and so an historian of antiquity, so I know that it takes a long time to know a period. And it takes a long time to know how it works, how we can explain a period. So at the opposite, I choose to go and see with this tool that is a publishing house, the word. So the word nowadays, and you see, as you know, the word is changing a lot, and we never know exactly what happens tomorrow, and so we have no concept to say what happens, and it's very difficult to analyze. So I choose fiction, only fiction. So in that context, I try to find novels because in France it's easier to sell, to interest the readers with novels. But I could find some novel. I could try to publish some novels. But if I do only novels, it's exactly what all of us do. So I tried to publish novels with backgrounds, social and politics backgrounds. It's how the way we work together since I worked since 20 years in the two publishing house. And the story is about a crisis, intimate or political or economical, something like this, with good characters, a story and a writing, a style. We tried, so it's exactly the perspective in which we publish in the publishing house. The catalogue is like a catalogue raisonné. So all the book we publish about between 7 to 10 books a year are necessary. We never do repetition. We are in the continuity. It's a long-term vision about the world. So in this context, I can talk about the new novel. We are very excited to publish. I say we, I say I and we, because the editorial is just in the here, and she was working with me, and so it's important for me to say that I'm not alone. Even we are a small publishing house, we are 3 independent since 20 years. And so the book we wanted to tell you about is a debut novel we will publish in March. Is written by Ahmed Foued Bourras. He was born in Algeria, and now he lives in France. He's working in a hospital as a surgeon, and he lives on the 2 sides of the Mediterranean Sea. We are very excited to publish this novel next March, just because it's an original and very successful approach about Algeria. In France, we talk a lot about Algeria, especially about the war between France and Algeria, or about the last 10 years with Islamic Jihad and so on, but we choose another way of thinking about Algeria, and with this, Ahmed Foued Bourras is a novel. So the novel is entitled Les Béliers. So the rams is very special. Yes, because we work about a popular Algerian with the city and the lands. And we are with a family of 3 brothers and sisters. And one of them is in France, and he comes back to Algeria, not the opposite first. It's very original in the novel we can publish about Algerian. So first. The second thing is that when he arrives in Algeria, he is very happy to come and is very happy to discover this country he doesn't know. And he met his half-brother, because the father had 3 different women, wives. So this was a shepherd, and is working with rams. And the work is about organizing fighting between rams before the Eid, so the fest. And it's very important to take care about these rams, because there has to be very, very good personalities. They have to be very strong, and we have to take care about this. And there are some characters, real characters. Their names are Gorbachev, Stalin, and so on. So it's very important to take care about the rams. And the third people, and it's important to see, is the woman, the sister. She's the real, more important characters in this novel, because everything in the novel talk about the place of the woman and the ways of her emancipation, but especially in Algeria, differently than in the West. So not only put out the veil and so on, no, to be the best woman, with the strongest one, with all the family to support. So it's a really nice novel. We begin and we go to know exactly what happened at the different steps with this very strong character. I don't say anything about the plot, because you have to discover him. and the style is very flamboyant, very strong. This new novelist doesn't know he has so much talent. Is for us a very important challenge, and all the rights are free, and so we will be very happy to talk with you about the Rams from Hamed Fouad Bourras. And thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I run a press called Fly on the Wall Press in the UK, in Manchester. So if you don't know anything about the UK, we have this thing called Northern Grit, which is where we celebrate being outside of London, and very much we've always championed that. I can say that because we're not in London today, but so we founded in 2018, and we call ourselves a publisher of a conscience because I feel it's really important to demystify publishing, to be accessible both to readers and to writers, to tell them what to expect, especially if they are a debut novelist, and to guide them along that journey as well, so that they grow in confidence. And, because not all authors are confident speakers, so we want to hold their hand along that journey and make them enjoy it as well. And all our books have a sort of sustainable focus as well. It's really important to us. Because we call ourselves a political publisher, all of our books have a kind of social change element. We would love for all our books to be teaching readers about different countries, different cultures, and hopefully they can feel like they've traveled when they finish reading the book. We also love fiction which feels like book club fiction, that you could have a meaty topic to discuss amongst friends and maybe something controversial that you all have different opinions of, but you all love to hate a certain character. So we really love those kind of books which the conversations continue long after. So we publish novels, short story collections, and poetry. And in the beginning, we used to publish a lot of cross-genre anthologies. So we would work with a charity on a theme, say mental health, and we would have artwork and poetry and photography as well. So we've really done a full breadth of styles of books. And we're on about 80 titles now. We're in our 7th year. So we love the feminists, the quirky, the dystopian. We see it as kind of a lens for exploring society and also critiquing society. I'd say that our style is literary, but it's accessible. I never want it to for the general reader who perhaps, in the UK, a lot of people would only read, say, 1 or 2 books a year. If one of those books is a fly on the wall press book, then I want it to be something that they feel like hasn't put them off reading. They're not alienated. They're just excited to explore something and read more. So the title that I feel like encapsulates what we do the best, and that I was really excited to acquire. It was out in October 2024, and it's a literary novella called Lying Perfectly Still. So Laura Fish is an acclaimed writer who had a novel in 2009 called Strange Music, and that has now been acquired by Penguin, had various publishers along the way. But what I really wanted to do with Laura is, essentially, she's a really important writer for decolonization and looking at British colonialism and, frankly, and saying, what does this mean? And it's important to look at that full on. And I feel that her work, even though it's been really important in universities and has been supported as and seen as an important, diverse and cultural voice, she's kind of gone out of print with those first 2 novels. And with this book, we really wanted to raise awareness of her. I feel that it is a book that will really travel. In the case of Lying Perfectly Still, it won an award in the UK called the SI Leads Award, and the readers choose it. That's to support a Black or Asian writer. So this one really, connected with readers, which, I love, because we publish kind of prickly books, and you never know whether someone is open to a book which is going to challenge them and maybe make them think in different ways. And the Reader's Choice Award kind of showed that people were ready for that. And the Man Booker Prize is a huge award, and because Laura passed 2 weeks before this book came out, it was gutting. It was really upsetting, and we had to cancel a lot of her all of the events. We had a memorial event, which her family really appreciated. to launch the book and continue her legacy. But that meant we couldn't enter the Man Booker, and this, of all our books, we've sort of been waiting to enter it. And they were very kind, because I didn't realize it's the first author that we've had that sadly become a legacy author for us. And so I emailed them and I said, I know this is the rule, but I feel very strongly that this is the best candidate. And so they've let us enter, so I'll tell you that maybe next year to see. The judges have allowed it in, so we'll now see. So it follows a 23-year-old girl called Kaliwe, who's recently become an orphan. And she has been born in Oxford, but her dad is from Eswatini in South Africa, and he was a painter. So he'd always painted romanticized views of what the Kingdom of Swaziland at the time, because it's set in 1990, was like. And she feels that she wants to discover about her Swazi heritage. So she decides that she'll join British Aid, and she's never done any aid work before. So she knows that it's going to be like a baptism of fire. She's going to learn a lot about other cultures, and it's not going to be easy work. However, when she gets there, the women in Eswatini at the time in the 90s, HIV was prevalent, and 70% of women of childbearing age suffer from HIV. So it's harrowing work to help the people there. She connects with a local girl, Tandy, who we call it a child-headed family, whereby her parents have passed and she's supporting her younger brother and becoming a motherly figure. But Tandy goes missing. And Kaliwe feels this loss very strongly, and she wants to go find her. So it's sort of there's a thriller thread through it, in that she goes to try and find her friends. And also, I feel like the main bulk of the novel is this coming of age kind of strand in terms of Kaliwe. She's quite young, 23, she's alone in the world. And her manager becomes someone who she forms a connection with that, she thinks he's a really good person. And there's romance there. But later she finds out that actually, he's not a force for good, especially in his leadership. He's not actually helping the people there. And she has to rise up against exploitation at the heart of British aid. So in that way, it's kind of an expose that's based on her real life experience as an aid worker to save the children. In the 90s, Laura used to be an aid worker and also a journalist for BBC World Service. So it's a really important novel, I think, for having all these themes. It's kind of got 3 really important themes in there, HIV, identity. By the end of the novel, Kaliwe starts calling herself, she learns that she can't pronounce her own name, so Kaliwe is the kind of English way of saying it, and she starts pronouncing it with the African click by the end of the novel. So we've got the identity strand, and then lastly, we've got this critique of British aid, and when we go in as an aid worker and as an NGO, are we thinking about what the culture needs? Are we asking them before we act with our own kind of lens? So it's got really important things to say, and I think we'll travel because of the fact that it's going to connect with people who are young and discovering who they are. And as we go along, society, we're becoming more and more diverse. A lot of us have multiple cultures that we see as part of our identity, and we're all kind of figuring out how we belong in that. So I think it's really important to be part of that discussion. We've retained all the rights for this, so it can travel in translation or indeed in the English language. And we've also got the audio rights for this. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think very nice of the Man Booker committee to make that consideration, I think.
Super nice.
Jean, next. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I am Jon Krog Pederson, Norwegian editor for fiction literature from the publishing house Aschehoug.
Jean, if you could just be a little louder.
A little louder? I can be as loud as you will. Sorry about that. I am working as a fiction editor for publishing house Aschehoug. And we are from a very small language, only 6 million people in Norway. So you might ask, what am I doing here? I'm sort of asking myself the same. But we have indeed a system in Norway that enables writers and publishers to develop their craft, even though everything is not going out on the big market internationally. This is a big political thing that has been clearly unique, I think, in internationally in terms of financing system from the state, actually. That makes it possible for an editor like me to jump on a project that I have very little thoughts of becoming a success on a commercial market. So I would like to elaborate a little bit on the work of an editor, like the old school, what is it all about? And you asked in your initial question, what do we look for when we look at a script? What is it that makes it good, the terms of quality? Is it plot? Is it character? Is it language? Is it all of these things? And obviously that would be too much to go into, but my goal as an editor is to try to find out that every day. I mean, asking these questions every day when we receive scripts from established writers or from potential debutants, and try to ask ourselves what is good. And if it's good, if it's something that comes out of a person's experience or some place that feels real, I do believe that it has the potential to go universal. And one of the things that I would like to talk about here today is one of our titles from writer Helga Flatland, who has been publishing 7 novels, and I've been working for her on the last 2, and working on the 3rd now. She was here earlier today talking about her novel Toxic, as it's called in English. In Norwegian, it's actually called Etterklang, which means reverberation, and it plays on fiddle music, folk music, really, and the undergoing structures of communication, the subtext, if you like. And I have a film from England. Wow. What can a screen do with the literature, huh? This is Helga Flatland, an award-winning writer from Telemark, Norway. And as I said, her book Toxic was published by Orenda Books in England under the title Toxic, and it plays on the darker side of our human sides. It's about Mathilde, a teacher in her 30s, who she's fired from work because she has had a sexual relationship with a student. And he's 18, so she feels that, and he has a lot of agency in this relationship. He's the aggressor, you might say. So she doesn't really reflect on the fact that the power dynamics and the symmetry is off. It's a very interesting female character because you have seen this quite a lot from male protagonists. In this case, Mathilde is standing on the shoulders of all the feminists in Norway who has done quite a lot of work for the equality. And she doesn't really reflect when she's going into the gray zone. So this is a very interesting protagonist. What happens when she goes, when she's fired from work, is that she wants to go to Telemark. By chance, the home county of the writer herself. And she tries to get into to escape the urban and go into the culture of the traditional rural areas of the countryside, which is, of course, very difficult. And there she meets a dairy farmer, Jos, and he's playing the fiddle on his spare time. And there's a very special Hardanger fiddle, which is our folk music, probably the folk music that Norwegians are most proud of, I would say. And she tries to get into this. She gets to know these people, and she also gets to know the tradition of the hardingfele, which is something that you have to. When you play a piece, you'll also have to tell a tale, and it's called Slottesoge, which is a short folk tale, very often about. That was spooky. It's the folk tales are very often about female characters who is not following the norms of the local traditions and gets severely punished. I think the rights of this book is already sold to a couple of countries, but as an editor, I know more about the script than the rights, but it's up for grabs for everyone, and I hope you will enjoy to read it sometime. Thank you.
Kannan, publisher of Collas Publications. We just turned 30 this year. We, publish across many genres, but our main focus is on literary fiction and non-fiction. We do publish a lot of translation. About 15% of our list is translations from other Indian languages and international languages. And when we translate, what we look for is that what does it add to our list and what does it add to Tamil, in the sense of, in terms of, literary merits, the storyline, does it bring anything new, a new way of narration, language, and we feel it does, and then we are happy to translate and market it in Tamil. So the one book I want to talk to you about is a book by a very rather young writer called Karthik Balasubramanian, who for his earlier novel won one of the best awards in India for young writers called the Yuva Puraskar Award. This novel is called The Rook. It happens in Australia. He juxtaposes two narratives. One is that of an experience of a captain in the first fleet that went to Australia, the Arthur Phillipps fleet. And his experience in that fleet, he is very disillusioned and he decides to come back. The second narrative is a young IT professional couple who decide to move to Sydney and for a short period of 6 months. And their experiences, the husband develops a weird relationship with the First Nation woman in Australia. And all these experiences run quite parallel to the first fleet captain's experience in Australia. He tries to weave all this together into a beautiful work. I have a small video on that book, and that's the author, Karthik. Can we play?
Taruk tells the story of indigenous Taruk people, taking us back 400 years to the early days of Australia. It shows their struggles and resilience during a time of great change and forced migration. The novel also highlighting the experiences of Asian communities seeking refuge in Australia for a better life. By moving between the past and present, Taruk explores the universal human quest for belonging and identity.
Hello everyone, Vanakkam. I'm Karthik Balasubramanian, a Tamil writer who loves to tell stories that connect the past with the present, the history with the modern world. I'm really excited to introduce my novel Taruk with you.
Inspiration of Taruk came from a seemingly small but deeply impactful incident. A few years ago, I and my wife were having a coffee in a cafe in Sydney. As we enjoyed our time, suddenly a patrol dog came into picture, barking and threatening a group of seagulls which were having the food crabs. What struck me was the contrast. The seagulls were part of this landscape thousands of years, but the dog represents human intervention came to the land a few hundred years ago. This haunting image struck me a lot. It symbolizes the displacement of indigenous people at the early stage of colonization of Australia. This image drove me to write this novel. I invite you to read novel Taruk that reflects the journey of search for home and identity.
So we have published the novel quite recently, and it's yet to be published in English, and all other rights are available. Thank you.
Thank you. Mélody, go for it.
Yes, hello? Yes. Okay. How do I go? This is closed. What do I do? Do I click here? Oh, I went too far actually. Sorry. Here. No, I didn't watch it. Yes. Hi, I'm Mélody Enjoubault. I am Flammarion's international rights manager for the non-illustrated lists, which means that I sell the rights abroad for Flammarion's fiction, non-fiction, self-help. And so the question that was asked for the panel actually asks itself a bit differently for me, because I'm not an editor. I defend Flammarion's editor's work. I try to export it. So I actually work with a selection that already exists, so I don't need to choose. Like, I already have the choice, and I need to defend it. So the elements that I'm going to put forward when I defend the catalogue are going to be different according to the book itself. Like, it's going to depend on many criteria. The first question, of course, is what kind of book I'm defending. Is it fiction? Is it non-fiction? Is it trade? Is it academic? And the arguments that I'm going to put forward when I defend the book are, of course, going to be different. I'm going to speak about style, about the story, about the characters, about the author sometimes. Like in academic work, the author is very important with its reputation, its network, etc. So I had made a whole list, but I'm not going to go too much into detail because I'm surrounded by editors who are going to expand on the arguments why they are interested in the book. So I'm not going to I'm not going to spend too much, but I think the main characteristics that are key when if a book is going to travel is, of course, originality, because translation is expensive. So an editor who is going to buy a book is going to buy something that he can't find in his own country, or something that's going to bring something new to his catalogue. And of course, it needs to be universal enough so it can travel. So those are the two main characteristics for a book to travel. And it's going to be very prosaic. I'm sorry, because I'm surrounded by beautiful stories, but I sell rights, so it's a bit more grounded. So of course, because most of the books are not translated. Like we said, we publish. I think President Flammarion actually is very bad. Well, I'll speak about it later. There are so many books that are good and that don't get translated. So of course, the reason why a book gets translated is not only about what's in the book. There are additional elements that are going to be key to whether or not a book travels. The first thing I think, or most of the time, in a publishing world that's getting more and more tense economically, is that editors are going to ask me, what are the sales? How does it sell? Has it got any translation? Have the rights been sold already? Does it have any press? So the prior success of the work in the country is actually very important for an editor to get interested. Whether or not the book has been translated into English is actually very important, even more so maybe here. I've been told that with the Indian publishers I met. But in general, the English translation is really, really important. And usually, like, our work is in two phases. Like the first phase, like the book is being published right now, we speak about the book. if we manage to sell the rights into English, then the book gets translated, gets published into English, and then we get a new wave of interest from all around the world. Like, oh, we have seen this book has been published into English, can I read it? So it's like, it's very important. Another element that's going to be important, regardless of the interest or the quality of the book, is the length. Is the book long? If the book is long, it's going to be expensive to translate. And so, of course, an editor is going to tell me, I love the book, I can't do it. Of course, the difficulty of the translation is also going to be important. Is the text difficult to translate? Is the focus on language too much? This is going to be important as well. Another element that I actually should have mentioned first is it too French? Is it? If it's too French, then no. A bit of French, yes, but too much, no. And then there are external elements that have nothing to do with the book. And what makes a book attractive, I think, is very much in the eyes of the beholder. Like, it really depends on what publisher we're talking to. A book could inspire no interest to someone and be a complete crush for someone else. So it's also about the publisher I'm talking to, his or her editorial line, the personality of the person I'm talking to. Like, after all, it's a very interpersonal, human business. Like, we talk to people. Books are made by people, and in the end, I'm talking to someone who has a particular experience, a particular life, like who has tastes, and this also is going to be important. And I'd like to think also that I have a bit of a role, like trying to convince someone, and sometimes I manage. Of course, also the market of the publisher is important. The cultural specificities, the tastes, the ideology, the political situation. There are books that I can have translated somewhere that I can't somewhere else because the situation of the market or the country doesn't really allow it, or it's just too complicated, too touchy, or too hard. And another element that I can't stress enough is the timing. There is a time for everything, and sometimes the time of publication of a book in France is not the time for it to be translated. It takes time. And it's something I have to explain to authors a lot because they get impatient, they want their book translated, and I say, the calendar, the schedule of foreign rights is not exactly the same as a French publication. And even now, we sometimes have deals for books that were published 20 years ago, 25 years ago, even more sometimes. It takes time, and there is a time for everything. And it's also very dependent on the situation in the country of the editor. The economical situation, is it very hard? Do they have money? Is it complicated? Even like completely unrelated things, natural catastrophes, war, civil war, or like the political situation of a country can be also very decisive in whether or not an editor can do the job. So my main point is that whether or not a book gets translated is really very much a result of an equation or almost a recipe where the result is always the same, a book being translated, but the ingredients to make it are always different. It's like really about finding the right balance and planets aligning almost. I'm going to present Flammarion now. Flammarion is we're actually celebrating our 150th anniversary this year, so it's quite an old publishing house. And I put all the little imprints under that I actually work with. They are all affiliated with Flammarion, and we represent the rights of these brands as well. But yeah, overall, with all the brands we have, we basically publish everything. It's a general publishing house, and we do publish a bit of everything. And so the title I wanted to focus on is Brigitte Giraud's Vivre vite, which means live fast, which is actually quite representative of what I just said. So Brigitte Giraud's book was published in 2022, and it won the Goncourt Prize, which is like the most prestigious literary prize in France. It sold more than 300,000 copies and was sold in 24 languages to date. Actually, the Hindi edition is going to be published in February. So it was very important for me to show you the different covers, the international covers of the book, because it shows you what I was saying, that how a book is perceived. I mean, it's very much about like the reception of a book, how it is perceived by the publisher I'm talking to. And here we can see that this book has been seen, perceived, marketed in very, very different ways. That it is a literary book, but we can see that in some territories it was maybe presented through the cover as a maybe more commercial or a title. So, like, yeah, it's really perceived in different ways depending on the country. And so to talk quickly about, I'm going to go back maybe if I can. Yeah. To talk quickly about the book. The author speaks about the death of her husband 20 years before in a motorcycle accident. And she lists in each chapter all the unusual events that led to the accident. So what she says that it shouldn't have happened. So many things basically happened one after the other that was so unusual that should have never happened but did anyway. And that led to the accident. So it's very much a book about guilt, because many of the events that happened were because of her, but of course she couldn't know. And also there's so many things that came into place, like planets aligning for the accident to happen, that you can only think maybe it was meant to be in the end. Like so many elements came together for this thing to happen that maybe there was no other way. So it's a beautiful reflection on guilt, on loss, on grief, and on fate, destiny. So apart from Hindi, the rights are available for all the other languages in India. English is not available anymore, but all the other local languages of India are available. So please feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mélody. You actually elaborated on the big challenges of selling foreign rights. I mean, as a fellow person who looks at foreign rights myself, I can tell you it's damn hard. But the fact that we go about it always is quite something. So well done.
She's actually done a foundational talk.
Yeah, that was terrific. Milee, take it away.
Hi everyone, good evening. Thank you first of all for staying back for so long. I know this is a longish session. And I thought I'd talk a little bit first about, how we acquire and, which is the starting point for all of us, or whether, how you buy books and sell books. So as the publisher of Penguin Random House in India, we have a very big team. I have about 25 or so editors. I look after 12 imprints. So from Hamish Hamilton, Alan Lane, Vintage, Viking, Hebrew Press, business. We have a very thriving business list. So there are 12 imprints. And I think that does help the program, because one of the things that I think we're lucky with is that we have a great team and editors who are diverse, who are different. So they bring their strengths to the table. And I like that. I like a good argument, when you're acquiring a book. I like people to fight for the books, that they want to publish. So in our acquisition process, I think I definitely get excited, or I'm alert if someone loves something, or there's a book that brings up a heated debate. I think then also I think it's something that, I want to think through more. And I think in our, I've been now with the group for almost 17 years. I've seen then, the stubbornness of an editor also plays a very important role. If there's something that you cannot get out of your head, it's stuck. And sometimes, there's something, maybe it's not on trend and it did not initially excite other people in the team, sales, marketing, other departments, but sometimes some editors bring it back again. They cannot let go of that book. And I think that is a good sign. And whenever we have taken a chance on such books, it might have been a debut writer or something unusual. I think it has worked for us. So I think those are some of the signs that I look for personally. I have, we have actually a lot of our editors here in the fair, and they're speaking on various platforms, from Otushi, Mansi, Archana, Vineet, and they all, I think, are very different. They're a very talented bunch, and that's how we are able to publish a very diverse set of books. I publish 250 books in a year, so it's like about 22, 23 new books every month, and we have a very thriving backlist program. So definitely 150 or so backlist. And there also we are acquiring books which are new to Penguin. So while we also republish our older titles with new introductions and maybe new chapters and new material, new jackets, but we are also acquiring estates and books that are new to us. So then we want to give it a fresh new lease of life and also champion it in the Indian market. So I think these things are very, very important for us. I don't want to take too much time and go into because of the kind of books that we publish. I think there is a different way to look at different lists. So when we are acquiring books from regional languages or translations, there's a different things we look for, or classics, or business, or literary fiction. There are different things. But the one other thing I think, and I'll talk this through more through an example of a book later, if there's a category which we generally say, doesn't very well in India and doesn't sell a lot, and so I want to break out into that category. I want to have a book that can sell more, and we managed to do that with a book called I Don't Love You Anymore, which is a collection of poems by Ritwik Singh, and he's a very young writer. He's here at the festival. He's speaking here, and the numbers are staggering, because when we pick up a poetry book, we publish about 4 or 5 in a year. It would usually sell 2,000-3,000 copies, but he has sold about 110,000 in less than a year. So I was quite, and it's going strong. We did paperback. We had to bring out a hardback because it was getting pirated. The real numbers are more than 2.5 lakhs because equal numbers were pirated, and they were pirated hardcovers. So we had to bring out our original hardcovers very quickly, like a beautiful gift edition. So we were keeping up with the piracy market in some ways as well, and it's tough in a diverse, in large country like India. So so that really excites me. If there's a category which people say, doesn't do well, and if I can publish a book which can get into the hands of so many readers, I think that becomes you're sort of beating the trend or the expected performance of a genre. So I think that is very exciting. It happened with us last year. The other, just to give you a sense, I'll take just a couple of minutes, but I just want to talk briefly about one more book, because that sort of will give you the sense of the range of publishing that we do. This month we are publishing Kurma Purana, which is a translation from original Sanskrit by Vivek Deb Roy, who passed away a few months ago. And that's an ancient text, and he's translated from Sanskrit to English. And it's part of the Purana series that we're working on with Vivek. This is the 7th. And Kurma is a tortoise, so it talks about the Vishnu avatar as a tortoise, and there are timeless stories of wisdom in the book. We've had huge success with Vivek Deb Roy, also it's part of our classics list. We've done the whole translation of Mahabharata, Ramayana, and then we're doing the Puranas now. And when we published the box set, of Mahabharata, which is 18 parvas and 18 big books as a box set, and it was an expensive box set and a heavy box set, and we were wondering how it would fare in the market, but it is our most successful box set till date. So I think if there is an appetite, and if you bring out books that are well produced and also written in an engaging way for a general readership, I think this can sell. So that's something also that I'm very proud of. We have a whole legacy of his books with us, and I feel these books are timeless and for readers of all age groups.
Cool. Thank you, Milee. So just a quick check on time. I think we'll just have to fasten the pace a bit. Raphaël, could you go for it?
Thank you, Arcopol, and hi everyone. I will be as short as possible, okay? I'm so happy to be in Jaipur because we talk about world literature. And world literature is basically what I'm living as a literary agent every day. And I feel proud to be here, actually, because I'm here to represent writers, but also to seek partnerships with publishers to reflect on other languages I don't have in my scope as an agent, but especially as an agent who is proud to work with Presence African Publishing. That is the founding publishing house that was created in 1949 at the dawn of colonization. And it's still held by the same family, the Diop family. And Présence Africaine has carried on a discourse in terms of literature and non-fiction, so on decolonization, but also on the place of Africa in the global world, placing new writers, new classics on the world map, and making it universal. And I'm so proud today to develop my work as an agent, because I feel like there is a lot of room to develop a reflection, seek for new translation for these works, and to talk about what I'm interested in their catalog and in the book I could be seeking for to defend and to find links between publishers as well. I will say I'm very much interested about counter-narratives. Présence Africaine has published Cheikh Anta Diop, who is probably the leading, if not, or one of the leading historians from the African continent. He has developed an history of Africa from Senegal, shifting from Western schemes on the history of Africa, enlarging the scope, enlarging something that was still to be written. And speaking about counter-narratives, it also links to literature in many, many genres of poetry, of novels, of short fictions. I could say I'm mainly interested in their catalog about bridges, books that could bridge. I think about this novelist from Morocco, Khalil Yamlahi. He is linking migration with tourism. Tourism and migration are two movements of people that are facing each other, that don't understand each other, of course, that are living a complete different reality. And this very book, by the way, we heard that US rights will be sold yesterday, and the book will be published in the UK in June. So let's seek for new translation, especially in Indian languages, for that book. But what I mean here about a book that bridge, I could also jump on what I wanted to say is that I'm interested about a book that could bring the readers to reflect on himself, on his inner self. So books that are carrying something about intimacy. I think about Ken Bougoul, who is a tremendous writer, a woman writer from Senegal, who is maybe the leading feminist writer, but she writes also about masculinity. So I learn a lot about myself when I read her work. But beside Ken Bougoul, I think about William Sassin. I want to talk about that very book. William Sassin passed away in 1997. Yes. And Memory of a Skin is a book about a terrible guy, Milo Khan. Milo Khan is actually a guy who detests everyone. He's maybe living in an unknown African country, but Milo Khan is also a guy who is misanthropist, who is cheating on his wife. He's a terrible person. One day he wakes up, he has just heard that there was a coup d'etat. And he's happy because he knows that people will start celebrating, and he knows they will be disappointed. And so he's starting very well his day. But step by step, you understand why this guy is like this, why is he so misanthropist. He's an albinos. He was always an outcast of society, someone who is just in between lines, in between everyone. So he's able to provide a worldview, something that is greater just than himself. And you start somehow, it doesn't matter. He starts somehow becoming attachant, becoming somebody greater than what he actually is. And the reader will feel somehow guilty of loving this guy because all his life he has maybe seek for love, seek to be loved, and at the end it's a reader who is maybe having the last word at being attached by this very special character. So I will end on that, and I'm so happy that we could start discussions about many perspectives because I think we're here for that, and I'm so happy about it. Thank you.
Bonsoir à tous. It's
Sabine, hi. Could you, so just in the interest of time, could we just focus on the book that we want to talk about?
I will be short, I swear.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So very happy to be here. Thank you to the Jaipur Festival for the invitation. Thank you to the French Embassy. As it was told, I created my own independent publishing house 23 years ago. I am from a classical background, and that means I used to teach Greek and Latin, and this has an importance on the way I'm choosing books. Worked for 15 years before in the publishing industry and decided to be able to become a publisher. I used to be an editor, as you told, and I wanted to be able to be master of the time and to publish less and to publish the best I can. So the only condition for that was to have a good distribution, because I wanted to play equal with the big publishing houses, with the group, and this in France is possible because we have very good cultural policy, and especially a law that explains that the publishers are fixing the price of the book. That means that the book has the same price in every single bookshop, on Amazon, online, everywhere, and this helps hugely. So I'm publishing French and foreign fiction. Among French fiction, I'm publishing a lot of writers who are writing in France, but not in France. This means Haitian, from Lebanon, from Switzerland, and this is important to me because this is a question of writing French in other ways than if you live in France. To answer the question, what catches my attention when I'm just choosing a book, when reading the journal, the newspaper in the plane, coming from Paris, I discovered an interview by Isabelle who is one of our great French actresses, and she was asked about the way she chooses her new projects. Her answer: each time, it's about feeling something compelling, identifying the point that makes the project unavoidable. Making a commitment to a film is like making a pact with yourself and with the other person. The way I choose my book is exactly the same. I'm making a pact with the writer, with the other person, and when I choose it, it's because I feel able to share the enthusiasm I have, the admiration I have with other persons. I mean booksellers, I mean journalists, I mean librarians, I mean you readers. So it's a kind of risky way of earning one's money, that's sure. But at least I think I'm trying to create symbolical value on the French market. And to finish with this, I just want to share with you one book, which is a book coming from Switzerland. This is a first novel published 2 years ago, Sa Préférée. It's a very local story, a coming-of-age story settled in the Swiss mountains, very local, about sexual abuse, violence, how you overcome this, and do you overcome? And now it's translated in 6 languages, including English. So I would be happy to share it in Indian languages. I thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. Stéphane, go for it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stéphane Husar. I'm the founder and editor of ABC Mélody in Paris, a company that I created in Sydney, in Australia, in the year 2000. And we have about 200 active titles. And having traveled a lot, quite naturally, the editorial line is about traveling, world cultures, and emotions. And this is a little friend taken from a book. His name is Maurice. And the book is now translated into 12 languages. We sold the rights. I'm not actually pitching on this book because we sold the rights to Thames and Hudson in World English. And then followed, Rizzoli, Mondadori, very, very prestigious houses. And if we can get to the next slide. Oh, it's me. Right. I don't know how it works. Right. So this is very much an overview of some of the books that we published. It's actually, all those books have either won a prize or been selected in quite a few prizes. One of them is called Le Prix des Incorruptibles. It's the biggest prize in France for children's books. By the way, I'm the only representative for children's books here, which is quite nice. What's really interesting about Le Prix des Incorruptibles is that it's voted for by children, about 700,000 children spread across, the whole country. So that's a nice, we're talking about pride when we publish, some nice books, but it's really something to be recognized by children. It's really, really moving, really touching. And I'll actually make a link with the next slide, which is in French, Le Super Pouvoir des Histoires, translated by Thames and Hudson by Morris, and the Magic of Stories. So we're not traveling here, or you might say we're traveling through books. It's really interesting when I read a text. You know that there's no recipe for success. I mean, we don't know if a book is going to be successful or not. So I really do something which is quite a nice thing to do. It's almost like therapy. It's I tap into my inner child, and then I read the text. And as a child who's reading a text or listening to a story, I need to feel, it's really interesting what Sabine said about when you choose a role in a movie or choose a text in a picture book. I really need to be moved. I need to be, it's like an Indian dish, a wonderful biryani, spicy. I need to read something spicy. I need to feel good. I need to be surprised. I'm very curious. I'm a very curious person, like a lot of children. And the text needs to spark something in me, which is going to make me smile or make me a bit sad. Why not? But anyway, it's all about feelings. And then my inner child is going to lead me towards saying yes or no. And then my inner child gets really excited and he goes, yes! And then the main reason why I love my job so much is the next step is to find an illustrator. And as you know, in children's books, the illustration is really, really important. And our little friend Maurice is very lucky because his dad is a young illustrator from Italy, from Milan, Lorenzo Sangio, whom I found actually through Instagram. And I contacted him. He wasn't not at all not published in France, only in Italy. We now have done 7 books with him, all of them sold from 5 to 10 languages. This man, who's a really lovely person, he's got lots of cats. He loves cats, and cats and wolves in children's books are probably the most popular characters, and so he knows a lot about cats. The plot, for me, is actually, it has to be simple, it has to move me. And this little cat wants to eat the mice. Totally normal story. But the catch is that he found a trick to attract them and eat them, is to read them stories. Because Maurice is a book lover. He's got lots of books. And in the illustration, there's a lot of references to very well-known books, from kids, Little Red Riding Hood and so on. And I tend to forget that I'm the one who controls everything. So the text is quite short and it's very funny. And Didier Lévy, who's a very well-known author in France, has got this thing about making the text very musical. So being a musician, I come from a music background, ABC Mélody, I just got totally, excited. And Lorenzo, that's the power of books. With his style and the tenderness in his illustrations, really fit the text. And we talk about the link between text and illustration in the children's world, children's books. It's really, really important. Anyway, at the end of the story, so he reads the stories, to mice, and so they laugh together, they fell asleep together because the stories are very long or very boring. They cry together because the story is very sad. So actually went this morning to a session, and Rituparna Neog, who founded the Akam Foundation, talked about reading is a collective act. And I really love that idea. Yeah, it is a collective act. And you might be on your own, reading a book, but at the end of the day, children are going to get excited and they're going to tell their friends or their mom or dad or grandma or grandfather, how they love the book and ask questions, and they might relate to the character. And that's, why I love this job. It's creating some magic, but it's a teamwork. It's very much a teamwork. It's very selfish, because I'm the one who's going to choose the project, but at the same time, it's teamwork. And I'll just tell you one thing about what's happening next. About what's happening next is that with Didier, we had an idea about the next book, which is going to involve Maurice. Maurice gets visited by the king of cats, riding, his big Cadillac, a pink Cadillac. And the king of cats is not happy at all, because in this world, you don't befriend mice when you're a cat. You're supposed to eat them and kill them. Kill them and eat them. But then Maurice is courageous enough to take the challenge and say to the king of cats that no, friendship with those mice took him a long time, and he's going to stick to that. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Swetha, please go ahead. I think we'll have to just cut it short for a little bit, but yeah, just as soon as you can.
I'll try to wrap it up as fast as I
Thank you.
can. Hi, I'm Swetha Yerram. I'm an independent Telugu language publisher. For those of you who do not know what Telugu is, it's one of there are 2 Telugu-speaking states in India, and I'm from that place. I entered publishing in a phase where there were barely 200 books sold of each book published, and if a book is sold at 500 or 1,000 copies, it's a massive hit. And being a data analyst, I was thinking of why it is happening. While there are millions of Telugu-speaking people, and I know a lot of them can read Telugu, but it wants me to stop. I'm not going to. Sorry. Well, I entered in that phase, and my co-founder and we were trying to find new readers. At the time when we had this motto in our head, we had no idea that that's the biggest challenge of publishing. At least in the Telugu states, and most of the regional languages in India, probably at this time, is finding new readers. That's the biggest challenge. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, sorry. Yeah, and we had no idea that we have taken up such a huge responsibility on our heads. All right. And when we started digging into what is happening, where it's going wrong, the point we focused was, where are the readers gone? There used to be a really big number of readers in Telugu and regional languages. Where are they? They are on social media. And that's where we went to find them again. So we did a focused and targeted marketing on social media for the age groups and the kind of books that we were publishing. We published mostly fiction books, except one. We have published only 21 titles till date in the last 2.5 years. We did it slow because we are a very small team. But one of our books last year became a massive hit, and we sold 150,000 copies of one regional language book. Thank you. And as I speak now, I'm very confident that some Telugu person somewhere in the world at this hour is reading that book, because every hour we are getting either a mail or a DM from somewhere, some part of the world. So we have been monitoring it, like I used to live in the US, so I used to monitor it in the US timings, and my co-founder living in Hyderabad used to monitor from there, and our author who lives in Ireland used to monitor from there. So the data is right. Somewhere, somebody every hour is reading our book. And yeah, this is the book that I'm also pitching today, our bestseller. It's called Amma Dairylo Konni Pejilu, which means few pages from Mom's Diary. So our author, Ravi Mantri, he's a core feminist, I believe, but he sugarcoats feminism with love. I think that's what we have to do for anything that we want to induce into people's heads, and he does it so beautifully. The core point of the book is about the life of a woman before marriage. A lot of us like to boast and tell our fathers being playboys or have had a lot of love stories before meeting our moms, but we don't like to talk about our mom's love stories, most of us, especially in Indian families and context. And our author decided, why not? A mom might have had a love story before she met my dad, so I'll talk about that. So he takes us to the journey of a young lady from her teenage into her 60s, who unfortunately could not marry the love of her life. She thought the love of her life when she was in college. But later on in her life, the lady's son and the daughter of the person she was in love with in college, they both become friends and decides that, okay, I think now our parents should meet and see how their lives goes forward. What happens if they meet again when they are in their 60s? Now they both lost their partners, so what happens? I'm revealing the whole plot, sorry about that, but yeah, it's packed with emotions, and it's told in a language that's very easy to connect for contemporary young readers. And I think that's the reason, the language, the simplicity of the language. Here is our author, Ravi Mantri. Yeah, so it's a roller coaster rider of emotions, and we have, I think, revived the habit of letter writing, handwritten letter writing in Telugu language, because we receive a lot of handwritten letters to the author and to the characters of the book. So it's been a beautiful journey, wonderful journey for us. We signed English rights in Indian territory with Penguin. Thank you, Milee. But all other language rights are available, both Indian and international too. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Swetha. And many congratulations. I think that's the kind of success not a lot of books. I mean, it takes time, but it's like the gold. You've hit the gold mine. Tiffany, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you still have a few minutes of attention for the two lost souls at the end. So briefly, and I would like to honor the homework that you gave us, please. So I'll be as fast as I can. I work for Gallimard. I work more specifically, so Gallimard being the leading independent publishing house in France, known for its excellence in literary novels. I work specifically for the Du Monde Entier collection, a foreign fiction collection, quite prestigious, that has published over 40 languages since the 1930s. My specific role over there, we are a big editorial team of 5 editors, with each of own having linguistic specificities. I'm in charge of overlooking English-speaking writers and Asian literature. When I was hired, my boss told me that my mission was to find the new Hemingway. I have not found this author yet, but there are 5, I think, elements that I always try to combine in order to feel confident that I will have as many tools and strength to push a book and make sure that I find readers at the end of the line. The first one is style, of course. I love a line by American writer Charles Bukowski. Style is the answer to everything. I need personally to be impacted by the writing, whether mesmerized, scandalized, moved. I need to have almost a physical reaction and know that I'm discovering something fresh and new. I need to find knowledge in the novel. It's important in this collection to offer voices that describe, give context about societies, different worlds, but that also offer a key of familiarity. So I think we were quite a number here mentioning universality of topics, and that's essential to travel and yet reconnect. I'm finding in our world of very limited attention span that if I don't find a way of pitching a book very briefly, almost in one sentence, I know that it's not going to be as easy for me to speak about the book. Booksellers tell me in France, we have great independent booksellers, they need to have one sentence pitches for the customers to grab their attention right away. So if a pitch is too convoluted, I know I'm not going to be efficient enough to push it. The profile of an author is key more and more, and sometimes, I mean, it's hard not to only focus on the text, but I don't think we can. I mean, I can't anymore. If an author has had great press coverage, has won prizes, obviously it's very attractive for me, and I cannot ignore who the author is. And what I'm finding more and more quite fundamental, even if it might seem artificial like that, it's the storytelling around the book. How was this book discovered? What impact it had in its country? How did I personally find it? Booksellers, the press, they love knowing why a foreign book arrived in our publishing house. What was the path? So if you have a good story to tell, a catchy one, an interesting one, you are sure to give an extra angle of attention for readers and for all the people who promote books around the story. And when these 5 elements are aligned, well, you have faith that you will have a gem. And this is exactly what has happened with this Indian novel written in Tamil that Kannan has published, One Part Woman, Femme pour Moitié, that published a week ago. And all these elements that I described can be found in this absolutely gorgeous novel that I recommend to everyone. And for rights, you can ask Kannan where it's still available. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Vasu, you're the last man. So full disclosure.
Change your name to Vasu.
Yeah, that's why I was cursing my parents all the time. Why did they name me starting with V, you know? Vasudhendra is always at the end.
Just become Bangla.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, so I'm Vasudhendra. So I publish books in Kannada. Kannada is a language which is 2000 years old. So and I started this publication 21 years back. The reason is very simple. I had written 3 books and no one was ready to publish my books. So I approached 50 publishers. They all said no. So I published on my own with very, very shyly. I published 3 books and they became my bestsellers. So from then I realized that there are good writers, but publishers are not in a position to recognize the talent because they are lazy. They are not ready to read the manuscripts. So I said, I am going to publish books of young budding authors, and I will never publish a celebrity author book. Okay, so from past 21 years, I am doing that. And to just tell you the success of it, we have an award in India as the best young author from Central Sahitya Academy. That award has come 4 times consecutively to my publication. 4 times. And today I sell at least 2,500 to 3,000 copies every month from my publication. So that's what I do. And I'm the only employee of my publication. So there's no one else, okay? I handle the entire, starting from proof corrections, layout, and doing selection and editing. Everything is me, okay? So that's how I do. So that's what I'm doing. So how do I get the money? Because I do publication of only the young author who has not been heard by the readership. They don't have any readership, right? So how do I get money? Is because I have written 16 books. They're all bestsellers. So I get a lot of money and I invest in the young authors. And because from 21 years, I have been consistently publishing authors who have been celebrities now, right? So now everyone, irrespective of what author I am publishing, they buy the books. So that kind of a brand image which I have got in this past 21 years, which is working very well, okay, especially for translation, because in the translation, people do not know the author, who is that author, though he comes from another language, because he comes from the another language, because it has come from me. And translation, every sentence I edit, okay, so I'm the editor as well for that, so every sentence I edit. So this is the only criteria for this, for my publication. Till in 21 years, I have published 106 books. So not more than that. So that's what it is. The book which I am trying to recommend today is, actually I'm showing the English version, but its original book is in Kannada. So it's called as Tejo Tungabhadra. Tejo is a river which flows in Lisbon and Spain, and Tungabhadra is a river which flows in my district, Bellary. So this is a 15th century, late 15th century and 16th century historical fiction. We know we read history only through the kings and queens, mostly the palace history we read. But this is about the story of common people. When the political, there are so much fluctuations that happen in the politics. So what is the impact on a common man? So this mainly deals with a Lisbon lifestyle, actually. So I never gone to Lisbon, so I have studied them, studied anthropology of Lisbon, and I have written. I have sold more than 20,000 copies of this book in Kannada, and English, Penguin has published this book, and Telugu already been read. I am ready with the Hindi translation, looking for the publisher, and Malayalam this month it is going to come. So their DC Books is published in this month, and Mehta publishers have bought the rights in Marathi, and all other rights are with me. So what is this? It's like we read only Vasco da Gama coming to India with finding a new route. Albuquerque comes afterwards, and they buy spice and all. But what exactly it meant for a common man? What all the changes it brought for the people who live in Lisbon, and also for the people who lived in Vijayanagara and Goa. So this deals with mainly these all four countries, three cities, mainly Vijayanagara, Goa, as well as Lisbon. And importantly, four religions: Catholic, Jews. There was a major impact on Jews because of a route invention to India, which many of us don't know. The Jews' life, that religion, and Islam, of course, and Hinduism. So these four religions are extensively covered. This involves a lot of research, and also it's a very good story, actually. So by the end of the day, it's a fantastic story. And people, to tell you the popularity of this book, by the time Aditi started speaking, and now when I'm speaking, I've got 4 appreciation messages already for this book. Okay, the messages have come. So that kind of a book it is. So it has been done, and I would really recommend, especially the European countries, who will be very much related to this particular book, because it contains the medieval times, and how was the this maritime business, and what was it like, okay, for people who were traveling on the ships. What were the rules for them? What was the kind of lifestyle they had? What did they eat? And how their life was impacted when they came to India. Just to give an example, like what attracted the Portuguese person, my hero actually, when he comes, what attracted him most in India is mango. They had never even tasted mango in their life, the people who are in the Portuguese. And when they came here, so he becomes fond of mango, so he doesn't want to leave India at all. So that kind of a scene. And also, very, very interestingly, many of you don't know that Portuguese introduced chilies to us. They came for spice, and they gave us a spice which overtook all the existing spice, and we eat more chilies than pepper or any other things. Okay, so they came to us and introduced the chilies. So that kind of interesting details will be there. So anyone who is interested in a very good story and extensive research on the history can buy the rights from me. Okay, all rights are with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vasu, and thank you to everyone for taking us through this journey of your publishing process and your books. It's been a long session. Thank you for being patient. Thank you, Manisha. I think we went a little bit over time, but I think it was worth it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We would like to thank each one of you for such an engaging session, wonderful session. Thank you all wholeheartedly. Thank you so much. Kindly accept the token of appreciation from Team JBM. To view the session and many more, please tune into the official Jaipur Bookmark YouTube.